What if the place where you go to find peace the vast? Quiet woods hold secrets darker than you could imagine. What if the isolation you seek only leads you deeper into a nightmare from which there is no escape? Tonight, we will document the evidence. We will explore stories verified by police reports, eyewitness testimony, and official case files accounts that confirm the woods are more than just trees and shadows. They are the setting of horrors too real to ignore. This is Verified Nightmare, where every nightmare is real and every story is verified. Today's video brings you 15 Lost in the Woods horror stories, true events from the darkest corners of rural forestlands. Each story explores the unraveling of ordinary lives confronted by something inexplicable, something that leaves behind more questions than answers. These are not tales for the faint-hearted. These are cases meticulously confirmed by declassified documents, corroborated witness interviews, and official investigations. Before we journey into the darkness, hit subscribe and the notification bell, because what you're about to hear will make you question the world outside your door and the safety of the woods that surround it. Prepare yourself, because the forest does not forget those who enter uninvited. Pause. Let's begin. The vanishing of Emily Harper. Emily Harper was a 26-year-old wildlife photographer living in Ashford, Washington. She worked freelance, often venturing into the forests of the Pacific Northwest to capture elusive images of native species. Emily was methodical, studious, a planner who never left anything to chance. Every outing was prepared with care: maps, GPS devices, backup batteries, and communication radios. She was known among her peers for her habit of sending hourly check-in messages to her older sister, Anna, even when deep in the wilderness. Ashford itself appeared idyllic, a small town nestled near Mount Rainier, surrounded by towering evergreens and crisscrossed with hiking trails. The locals prized their connection to the forest, a place that had long been considered both refuge and source of livelihood. Emily had lived there for 5 years, drawn by this balance of calm and adventure. According to the official case file, she was regarded as responsible and cautious, an ideal candidate for the kind of solitary expeditions her work demanded. Her last assignment was to document the rare elusive Pacific marten, a species known to inhabit some of the most remote woodland in the area. On a crisp October morning, Emily set out toward a known marten habitat roughly 10 miles from Ashford's main road. She carried with her a Nikon D850 camera with a telephoto lens, GPS tracker, and two-way radio. The weather was clear, the sun barely above the horizon, and the forest was alive with early fall colors. Eyewitness testimony from hikers on adjacent trails confirmed that Emily was seen setting off with the precise equipment she was known for. At 8:30 am, she sent her usual check-in text to Anna, heading into marten territory. "Will update in 1 hour." That message would be the last verified communication from Emily. According to police reports, the first unusual sign came hours later when Emily failed to send her scheduled 9:30 am check-in. Anna made several attempts to call without success, eventually reporting her concerned sister missing at PM the same day. Search and rescue teams were deployed at dawn the next morning. The initial searches concentrated around Emily's intended route, scanning for signs of the photographer or any distress indicators. The inciting incident recorded in the official case file states that a backpack was found 3 miles west of where Emily was last known to have been, beside a narrow trail. The pack contained her camera, spare batteries, and a GPS beacon still transmitting a faint signal, though not from Emily herself. The area, described in the search log, was densely wooded with steep, uneven terrain and populated by thick underbrush. No footprints or signs of a struggle were evident nearby. As the search expanded, volunteers reported hearing faint signals on their radios, characterized as low static interspersed with brief bursts of what sounded like whispered voices. These irregular signals were logged as untraceable interference at first, but became a subject of concern after they coincided with last known locations from Emily's GPS tracker. Analysis by the Forest Service communication team showed the signals lacked any conventional pattern or identifiable source. A particularly troubling report, corroborated by emergency responders and recorded in the official investigation, came from a man named Carl Bennington, a seasoned hunter who often camped in the area. He described hearing a woman's voice calling for help near a ravine on the third day of the search. The voice reportedly echoed in a way that didn't seem natural, according to his sworn statement. When Carl approached the area, he found no trace of anyone but noticed odd markings carved into tree trunks lines and symbols that appeared deliberate but were not recognized as any known forestry or navigational marks. This detail was later included in the publicly released search report and annotated as unexplained in the days that followed. Search teams began encountering more disturbing phenomena. Official records recount several instances of improvised trail markers, strings of twigs tied in unnatural patterns, sometimes resembling eyes that seemed to relocate themselves overnight. Surveillance footage from the forest ranger station showed unexplained shadows moving between trees without visible sources. Wildlife behavior noted by field researchers was described as agitated and unusually silent, deviating from normal patterns witnessed in previous years. Emily's camera was finally recovered 9 days after her disappearance in a shallow creek bed. However, the memory card was missing, presumably lost or removed. This was a critical clue, as all the photos and footage expected to be recorded during her trip were absent from the recovered equipment. Forensic analysis later confirmed the camera itself bore faint scratches consistent with someone attempting to extract the internal card forcibly. Police reports include testimony from the lead search coordinator detailing the emotional and psychological strain on the volunteers. Several expressed feelings of being watched and paranoid, indicating the forest environment seemed to close in around them. Despite a wide search conducted by over 50 volunteers and law enforcement officers, no sign of Emily was found beyond her belongings. 4 weeks after Emily's disappearance, found on the outskirts of Ashford, 3 letters addressed to her sister emerged from a mailbox near the town's edge. These were handwritten notes on old stationery without postmarks. According to Anna's sworn statement, the letters contained scrambled references to watchers, the trees listening, and warnings to not return to the woods. Handwriting experts confirmed the letters matched Emily's style, but the tone was uncharacteristically fragmented and alarming. The police officially logged the letters, but could not verify their origin. The official case file closes with a summary that there was no confirmed cause or suspect for Emily's disappearance. The investigation was classified as a missing person case with unknown cause. Authorities searching for logical explanations considered accidental falls, animal attacks, or voluntary disappearance, but concluded none fully fit the evidence. Remarkably, local law enforcement acknowledged receiving occasional reports of similar disappearing acts in the surrounding forest, though none documented with the same detail until Emily's case. To this day, no physical trace of Emily Harper has been found. Her family relocated away from Ashford, but continues to petition for the case to be reopened periodically. Unresolved, the official files include a chilling notation from a forest ranger's daily journal written shortly after the search ended. The woods never gave her back. Something kept her. Something we may never understand. There are no definitive answers in the Harper case, only a trail of verified facts and unanswered questions, shadowed by the quiet, watchful trees that have become both home and tomb. Emily Harper's disappearance stands as a sobering reminder of the peril that may lie just beyond the trailhead, where the beauty of the wilderness converges with the unknowable darkness within. The disappearance of Thomas Reed. Thomas Reed was a 34-year-old forestry technician living in the small town of Pine Hollow, Vermont. A quiet man by nature, Thomas had a routine that few ever disrupted. He was an avid outdoorsman, spending most of his days managing forest health, mapping tree populations, and tracking wildlife. His work required uncommon knowledge of the woods, especially in the rugged terrain surrounding Pine Hollow. According to official employment records and interviews, Thomas was detail-oriented and cautious, always the first to advise his colleagues to respect the unpredictable forces of nature. Pine Hollow was a historically quiet town, known for its wide expanses of untouched woodland and clear, cold lakes. The population was sparse. Neighbors often knew each other, but remained respectful of privacy and personal space. The town's history was dotted with old logging camps and Native American legends cautioning against disrespecting the forest spirits. Thomas lived alone in a modest cabin at the edge of the forest, a place he had built himself after years of working in different logging operations. On a cold November morning, Thomas set out from his cabin to conduct a routine survey along the southeastern boundary of the forest. He was to assess the health of several groves that had suffered from pest infestations earlier in the year. According to statements from his supervisor, Thomas left with a standard gear pack, a tablet loaded with mapping software, a GPS tracker, a forest ranger radio, and a set of survival essentials. He was expected to return by late afternoon to upload his data to the forestry department's main server. The inciting incident occurred just after midday, when Thomas's supervisor received a fragmented radio transmission. The official communication logs show the message included a series of unintelligible sounds followed by Thomas's voice, strained but clear, saying, "Something's wrong. I'm off the path. Can't see. Shadows." The transmission abruptly ended before emergency protocols could initiate further contact. Search parties organized quickly, with the first responders tracing the last GPS coordinate transmitted by Thomas's tablet. This point was deep within a part of the forest known locally as Dead Man's Hollow, a secluded, heavily wooded area, with a reputation for disorienting even the most experienced woodsmen. According to local folklore collected in the police reports annex, the hollow gained its nickname because of multiple unexplained disappearances over the decades. As the search began, Thomas's work tablet was found discarded, partially buried beneath a thicket of brambles near the edge of a small creek. The tablet was cracked but operational, its location logged and confirmed in the official search reports. Notably, the last data entry on the device was an incomplete map marked with strange, irregular symbols not consistent with standard forestry notation or any known mapping code. Eyewitness testimony from volunteer searchers includes a statement by Maureen Keller, a nearby hiker who entered Dead Man's Hollow on the second day of the search. Keller reported hearing distant footsteps and a disembodied voice calling her name, followed by a sensation of being watched. She described the feeling as an oppressive weight, like the forest itself was hostile. No other individuals were found in the area when she returned with her party. The build-up of the investigation reveals a pattern of increasingly disturbing findings. Rangers documenting the search began recording bizarre environmental changes, trees that appeared to have been freshly cut, but with no tools nearby, animal carcasses positioned unnaturally close to paths, and multiple instances of missing equipment belonging to search volunteers, including radios and compasses. A log entry from Lieutenant Marcus Bell, head of the search team, recorded on the third day reads, "Atmosphere is tense. Men and women are uneasy. Something is wrong here, more than the terrain." According to official police documents, forensic analysis of the forest floor revealed traces of unidentified chemical compounds near Thomas's last known coordinate, substances that did not match any herbicides or insecticides used by the department. Samples sent for examination returned inconclusive results, deepening the mystery. One of the most significant revelations came through recovered security footage from a nearby ranger tower. The video, captured during an overnight search mission, shows a shadowy figure moving rapidly between trees, avoiding illumination from patrol lights. The figure's shape was indistinct, but the movement was calculated, deliberate, and unnervingly silent. Specialists who reviewed the footage described it as not consistent with any known human gait or animal movement. This footage was included as evidence in the case file and later declassified after an extensive Freedom of Information Act request. The reveal came after search teams discovered Thomas's abandoned backpack several miles deeper into the forest, near a rock formation known locally as the Devil's Teeth. Inside the pack was the forestry tablet, some personal notes, and most alarmingly, a torn and bloodied piece of cloth matching Thomas's jacket, confirmed through fiber analysis. The official report notes no other personal belongings were found, and no further signs of Thomas's presence were detected nearby despite thorough grid searches. The aftermath of Thomas's disappearance was marked by increased community alarm. The forestry department suspended all non-essential operations in the Dead Man's Hollow area, citing safety concerns. Local news reports emphasized the mysterious nature of the events, highlighting the lack of any credible explanation for Thomas's vanishing. His family moved away several months later, frustrated by the unresolved status of the case and the sparse official communication. In the months following, the official file includes testimony from a fellow technician who claimed to receive strange phone calls purportedly from Thomas. The calls consisted of heavy breathing, unintelligible whispers, and background sounds that resembled forest noise but always ended abruptly. These calls were never traced or confirmed by law enforcement. The case remains open without closure. A chilling note in internal correspondence from the Vermont Forestry Service reads, "The woods may take us when we least expect it. Whether through human error or something beyond our understanding cannot be determined, but the forest holds its secrets well. To this day, Dead Man's Hollow remains off limits to civilians and most forestry personnel." Thomas Reed's disappearance stands as a warning documented in police reports and verified witness statements that even the most prepared and knowledgeable can be lost when the forest itself seems to turn against you. And somewhere in those silent trees, the questions linger. What claimed Thomas Reed? And will the forest ever give him back? The lost campsite Sarah Miller was a 29-year-old elementary school teacher living in Cedar Falls, Maine. Known among friends and family for her calm demeanor and deep love of nature, Sarah was a regular weekend camper who took her escapes to the forest seriously. She often traveled to Baxter State Park, a remote, wild area known for its rugged beauty and isolated campsites. According to her closest friends and the verified timeline in her case file, Sarah's passion for the outdoors was balanced by a careful, responsible approach to wilderness survival. She always informed her family of her itinerary and carried well-maintained gear, including a satellite phone, a compass, and a small first aid kit. Cedar Falls was a small town framed by dense pine forests and narrow, winding roads. It was a community where everyone knew each other by name, making Sarah's disappearance all the more jarring. The park she frequented was a place of solitude and challenge. Trails were long, sometimes perilous, and cell service was intermittent at best, an environment that required respect and preparation. On the morning of her final trip, Sarah left her home with her usual camping supplies and a detailed trip plan shared with her sister, Linda. Her goal was to spend 3 nights camping near Catadin Stream, hoping to document flora and fauna while teaching herself more about wilderness trekking. Her last communication was a brief text sent early on day 1. "Everything is perfect here. We'll check in tomorrow." The inciting incident in the official investigation occurred on day 2, when a distant camper reported hearing loud, banging noises echoing across the forest around sunset near Sarah's campsite. Witness testimony collected by park rangers described the sounds as repetitive, mechanical, and out of place. No one ventured toward the noise immediately, assuming it was wind or forest animals, but a later search found no natural explanation. On day 3, Sarah's sister reported her missing after failing to receive the expected morning check-in message. This was unusual enough to trigger contact with the park authorities. Search teams were dispatched immediately, combing the area indicated on Sarah's last known GPS ping. The search uncovered Sarah's campsite abandoned and in disarray. Police reports detailed that her tent was torn open from the inside and supplies scattered as if hastily left behind. Notably, her satellite phone and compass were missing items she never went camping without. Her backpack was found several yards away near a small creek, soaked and partially buried under fallen leaves. The state park's official incident log described the scene as disturbing but with no clear indications of foul play. Search and rescue volunteers reported strange atmospheric changes near the campsite over the days of the search. According to entries in the official investigation, the weather was clear, but shadows cast by the trees appeared distorted and moved independently of natural light sources. GPS devices used in the area began showing erratic readings, dropping signal strength without explanation. One witness, Henry Coyle, an experienced park guide, provided a report confirming that as his group approached the campsite, the forest fell unnaturally silent. Birds stopped singing, and all animal tracks vanished from the surrounding ground. It was like the forest was holding its breath, Coyle's statement read, preserved in the police file. Further examination of the site revealed deep impressions in the soft earth footprints sized too large for Sarah, but not matching any known animals common to the park. These prints were irregular, sometimes appearing elongated or too spaced apart to align with standard gait patterns. Specialists brought in to analyze the prints could not conclusively identify them, but the official forensic report noted they were unlikely to have been fabricated or recently disturbed and were consistent with something large and heavy moving stealthily through the underbrush. Additional clues surfaced in Sarah's journal, recovered later during the search. It detailed her growing unease as she wrote about hearing strange rustling just beyond her tent and sensing that something watched her from the trees. She noted a repeated tapping sound she could not locate and increasingly erratic compass readings. The last entry was dated the night before she vanished. "I don't trust the woods anymore. If these feelings are right, I'm not alone." The reveal of the story occurred when search teams found an abandoned campsite several miles deeper into the forest, one that had not been on any official map or Sarah's planned route. The site contained remnants of a fire pit, a damaged sleeping bag, and evidence of a makeshift shelter. Investigators surmised this was where Sarah had been taken or fled to. No further signs of her were found despite extensive searches. The aftermath documentation describes ongoing investigations involving the Park Service, local law enforcement, and forestry specialists. Despite increased patrols and advisories against unauthorized camping in the area, no further clues to Sarah's fate emerged. Her family requested multiple reopening attempts of the case, but these were met with little new evidence. Official files repeatedly mention the park's reputation for mysteries and disappearances that challenge explanation. A notable but unresolved angle in the case came from intercepted radio chatter among park rangers recorded weeks after Sarah's disappearance. The communication included static-laden warnings of unseen watchers and a request to keep reports internal to avoid public panic. These recordings are part of internal documents withheld from the public for decades but later verified by independent journalists. The case remains open yet unsolved. Sarah Miller's disappearance is catalogued as an enigmatic loss, one detailed in official Park Service logs, police reports, and corroborated by multiple eyewitness accounts. The forest where she vanished continues to draw anxious respect, its silence a reminder that sometimes the wild is less about the animals you see and more about the secrets it keeps buried beneath the canopy. In the cold, quiet woods of Baxter State Park, the gap left by Sarah Miller is not just empty space, it is an absence charged with questions and unease that lingers. Waiting. The vanishing of Mark Davis case. Mark Davis was a 38-year-old search and rescue volunteer and part-time carpenter residing in the rural outskirts of Cloverdale, Oregon. Known for his unwavering commitment to community safety and his meticulous approach to wilderness navigation, Mark was a familiar figure in the region's outdoor circles. His experience spanned over a decade, working with the county's search and rescue teams, training newcomers, and always emphasizing thorough preparation before any excursion. According to the state police records and interviews with colleagues, Mark was regarded as exceptionally reliable, someone who never ventured into the woods without a detailed plan and redundancy in communications. Cloverdale itself was a small logging town surrounded by dense temperate rainforests known for both their natural beauty and rugged terrain. The surrounding forests were interwoven with miles of old logging roads, hiking trails, and areas where the canopy grew so thick it blocked much of the daylight. Locals often told stories about the woods. Some warned of natural dangers. Others whispered of strange disappearances that had remained unsolved for generations. Mark's home lay just beyond the town limits, a modest log cabin that he had built with his own hands over several years, equipped with the essentials for his outdoor work and rescue missions. On the morning of October 3, 2018, Mark set out on a solo mission to assist in organizing supplies for an upcoming search operation targeting a missing hiker in the nearby Mount Hood National Forest. His plan included transporting emergency kits, updating trail maps, and checking radio repeaters throughout the area to ensure full communication coverage. Police logs confirm that Mark's last known check-in call with the county dispatcher was at 9:15 am, during which he reported being halfway to the radio repeater site near Timber Ridge. The inciting incident is recorded in the official investigation, when the dispatcher received an alarmingly fragmented signal at 10:47 am. The audio contained garbled static interrupted by Mark's voice strained and breathless, uttering a single phrase clearly before cutting off. "Help, something's wrong, can't." The transmission abruptly ended, unable to be traced further due to severe interference that reportedly blanketed the area for the following hour. Search and rescue teams immediately mobilized, with Mark's last known coordinates uploaded to their GPS devices. This sector of the forest surrounding Timber Ridge was famously difficult to navigate, with uneven ground, dense undergrowth, and a network of twisting service paths meant for logging vehicles. Witnesses among the rescue crew later described the terrain as deceptively disorienting, with landmarks often shifting in visibility due to heavy fog and thick moss-covered trees. The initial foray into the search area uncovered Mark's Ranger vehicle parked on a rarely used logging road near the base of Timber Ridge. According to precinct logs, the vehicle was unlocked, with the driver's side door ajar, and Mark's work gloves resting on the dashboard. A Forest Service GPS device, recovered from the vehicle's console, showed erratic coordinate data, inconsistent with the device's normal functionality. Forensic examination of the vehicle found no signs of struggle or foul play, but a faint set of muddy footprints circled the truck before fading into the underbrush. Eyewitness accounts provided by local hikers in the days following the search paint a disturbing picture. Among those was Alicia Novak, a wildlife biologist who had been conducting research nearby. Novak's statement to authorities describes a moment when she encountered what she described as an unexplainable silence in the woods, followed by a whispering sound that seemed to emanate from every direction simultaneously, making it impossible to determine its origin. Novak was startled to find an overturned rock with crude symbols scratched into its base, symbols later verified by local indigenous leaders as warnings not to enter certain sacred wooded areas. As the search intensified, official records document a series of peculiar findings recovered in the area. Rangers discovered a peripheral path marked by broken branches and stripped bark leading away from their logging road. This trail, not shown on any contemporary maps, contained scattered items including a torn fragment of Mark's weather-resistant jacket and a GPS device that had been modified beyond typical factory specifications. Satellite analysis revealed the path had appeared relatively recently, leading investigators to speculate Mark might have been forcibly moved or led through a hidden route. Pursuing this lead, teams penetrated further into uncharted territory and encountered what was reported in the official case notes as an unnatural stillness in the forest. The atmosphere was described by veteran rangers as oppressive and gravity-heavy, almost palpable, causing some personnel to report sudden headaches and nausea. Communication devices intermittently failed, complicating the search and forcing teams to rely on hand signals and physical navigation rather than GPS. A critical moment occurred when members of the search party discovered a makeshift campsite constructed from fallen trees and mud. Personal effects were left abandoned there. Mark's multi-tool, an empty water bottle, and a small leather-bound notebook. The notebook contained hastily scrawled entries consistent with Mark's handwriting, detailing increasing fear and disorientation. Among the last recorded lines was a chilling sentence. "The forest is alive. It watches. It will not let me go." Authorities forwarded the notebook to forensic handwriting analysts and environmental psychologists, who concluded the writing was authentic and represented a genuine descent into panic over a brief period. Investigators interpreted the notes as evidence of a cognitive break brought on by extreme stress, possibly induced by unknown environmental factors. The reveal came months later, when a remote camera trap, part of a wildlife monitoring project installed on Timber Ridge, captured footage of an indistinct figure moving erratically through the treeline during POE dawn hours. The image was grainy, but forensic experts determined the figure's gait was unusual, characterized by abrupt jerking motions appearing unnatural for a human. Enhanced analysis showed occasional flashes of light reflecting off an object in the figure's hand, later identified as Mark's missing GPS and multi-tool. Despite thorough ground searches and aerial reconnaissance, Mark Davis was never found. The official police case file remains open with no evidence of foul play or natural causes explaining his disappearance. The local sheriff's department classified the event as a likely wilderness accident complicated by environmental and psychological factors yet to be fully understood. Years following Mark's disappearance, the forest near Timber Ridge gained a reputation for mysterious incidents. Logging crews reported hearing unexplained voices, while forest rangers described equipment malfunctions coinciding with periods of dense fog and sudden temperature drops. These accounts were noted in internal Forestry Service communications and corroborated by local law enforcement calls. Today, Timber Ridge remains a place few dare to tread alone. The disappearance of Mark Davis, extensively investigated through official case files and witness testimonies, stands as a grim reminder of the forest's unpredictable power. What truly happened on that logging road, whether accident, abduction, or something beyond comprehension, remains a mystery that haunts both the local community and those who study wilderness disappearances from afar. The forest does not offer easy answers. It conceals them beneath layers of moss, shadow, and silence. And for Mark Davis, it seems there is still no final path home. The mystery of James Carter, a wildlife biologist named James Carter, was a 31-year-old based in the small mountain town of Silver Glen, Colorado. Known for his methodical nature and scientific rigor, he had earned respect among his peers for decades-long dedication to studying forest ecosystems. James valued precision and data above all else, often embarking on extended solo field trips equipped with the latest research gear, a GPS device linked to the university database, motion-triggered cameras, and an acoustic recorder to capture wildlife sounds. His colleagues described him as calm and analytical, a man who would never take unnecessary risks. Silver Glen was a community of fewer than 500 residents, perched at the foot of the Rocky Mountains and surrounded by vast stretches of pine forest. The town's identity was tightly bound to the wilderness, with many locals working in forestry, park services, and outdoor tourism. The forests around Silver Glen were known for their biodiversity, but also for their unpredictable climate and occasional unexplained phenomena. On the morning of June 12, 2017, James set out into the nearby Elk Ridge Forest to monitor a migratory bird population. He planned a 2-day trek with scheduled check-ins via a satellite uplink every 6 hours, an enforced safety protocol in remote fieldwork. His last confirmed transmission came at 8 o'clock a.m. from Campsite Gamma, a cleared area near a small stream where James had set up his base for data collection. The inciting incident is detailed in federal park ranger reports when a hiker reported in the early afternoon hearing inexplicable bird calls from Elk Ridge. According to the hiker's eyewitness account, documented in police files, the calls were distorted, unnatural, and appeared to be repeating in rhythmic pulses. Such irregularities were unusual for the region and sparked concern given James's presence in the area. Later that day, when James failed to signal his 2 o'clock p.m. check-in, colleagues at the university initiated a missing person protocol. Rescue teams swiftly moved to Elk Ridge. However, the terrain was rugged, with areas of steep incline and dense overgrowth, often veiling natural formations beneath thick moss and fallen leaves. These environmental details, recorded by search team leaders, emphasize the challenge of locating someone in this complex wilderness. Search parties first found James's research tent, located as per GPS coordinates, intact but with noticeable disturbances inside. His equipment, camera, field notes, and acoustic recorder was present, but the recorder's latest files contained hours of static interrupted by faint whispers and what sounded like footsteps in the underbrush. Forensic audio specialists analyzing the files concluded the sound sequences were not atmospheric anomalies, but possibly human-made sounds overlaid with natural forest noise. Witness testimony from search volunteers recounts a creeping sensation of unease as they worked through the forest. Several documented a chilling silence that accompanied the search area, with wildlife unusually absent. Juxtaposed against the recorded unnatural bird calls, the environment appeared to shift between eerie quietude and unsettling auditory anomalies. An intensifying aspect of the case came from findings at a secondary campsite several miles from Campsite Gamma. Here, searchers discovered a hastily abandoned fire pit with charred remnants but no sign of recent human occupation. Among the ashes lay a digital wristwatch identified as James's, water-damaged but otherwise intact. Police analysis of the time data stored on the watch's internal clock corroborated it had stopped functioning within hours of James's last transmission. Further complicating matters, a piece of torn fabric later confirmed as part of James's field jacket was located snagged on a thorn bush near a narrow game trail. Biologists confirmed the trail was used by local deer and mountain lions, but showed signs of having been trampled recently by an unknown source. Official field reports described the area as difficult, with thick ground cover concealing natural pathways that could easily confuse an unprepared individual. The build-up of the story included a cryptic but critical clue when examination of James's motion-triggered cameras revealed that several images had been obscured by rapid bursts of light interference flashes that no natural explanation could justify. These flash bursts were time-stamped during late afternoon hours on the last day James was known to be active in the area. Additionally, data extracted from the cameras showed shapes at the edges of several photographs, elongated shadows inconsistent with local flora and fauna. Forensic photo analysts described the shadows as non-natural formations that could not be attributed to photographic error or environmental conditions alone. One of the most troubling developments emerged when satellite imagery was reviewed a month later. Analysts noted a previously unrecorded clearing deep within Elk Ridge, approximately 6 kilometers from James's base camp. This clearing was distinguishable only in images taken after James's disappearance and included traces of movement and fire that were not captured in earlier scans. The terrain was dense and remote, long considered impassable by most trekkers. The reveal arrived when search teams found a handwritten note taped to the underside of a moss-covered rock in the newly discovered clearing. The note, verified by handwriting analysis as James's, warned of watchers in the trees and advised whoever found it not to trust the forest as quiet. The note went on to describe intermittent feelings of being followed and hearing whispered voices echoing through the canopy. The final lines, written in rapid, almost panicked script, said, "They watch, they wait. Don't come here." The official aftermath of James's disappearance remains cold and unresolved. The search was officially called off after 3 weeks, with no further physical evidence uncovered. The university's missing person file contains detailed timelines, witness statements, and forensic reports, but concludes with an open verdict, noting James's fate cannot be presently accounted for by natural or human causes. Local authorities subsequently placed Elk Ridge Forest under increased restriction, limiting access during certain seasons because of ongoing mysterious incidents reported by hikers and forestry personnel. Allegations of strange noises, sudden weather shifts, and disorienting fog are regularly included in forestry department logs. These details have been corroborated through police reports and declassified internal communication between park staff. In the years since, researchers and wilderness experts have debated the case extensively. Published papers acknowledge the strange phenomena around Elk Ridge, but admit that no consensus explains the disappearance. The balance between scientific inquiry and local superstition remains delicate. For the residents of Silver Glen, the memory of James Carter serves as a chilling reminder of the unpredictable dangers hidden within the seemingly serene woods. The forest holds many secrets. Some remain hidden beneath layers of earth and shadow until those who walked beneath the canopy are swallowed whole, becoming whispers on the wind. Like James Carter, the vanishing of Sophia Grant, a botanist named Sophia Grant, was a 27-year-old living in the quaint town of Everwood, Vermont. Known among her colleagues for her sharp intellect and diligent research methods, Sophia had recently begun a project studying rare alpine plants in the remote Green Mountain National Forest. Her profession required extended periods of solitude, enduring harsh weather and challenging terrain to collect samples and data. According to her field journal and university records, Sophia was meticulous in her planning, always leaving a detailed itinerary with friends and family, and equipped with a satellite phone, a handheld GPS device, and survival gear suitable for the unpredictable mountain environment. Everwood was a peaceful town, its charm derived from rolling hills and sprawling woods that stretched toward the distant mountains. The Green Mountain Forest nearby was revered for its natural beauty, but also whispered about in local lore as a place where many had ventured but never quite returned the same or at all. Though the community was small and tight-knit, it had endured a number of mysterious disappearances over decades, often involving hikers or researchers venturing into unmarked territories. On a late September morning in 2019, Sophia set off from her cabin adjacent to the forest's edge. She intended to establish a temporary base camp approximately 15 miles into the northern sector of the Green Mountain. This area was known for its dense fir trees, sharp ridges, and hidden glacial brooks. Before departing, she sent a text to her closest friend, Ethan, confirming she was equipped and beginning the expedition, ready for the mountains. "We'll check in every 12 hours. Keep watch." Sophia's usual schedule called for her to report progress twice daily, once mid-morning and again at night. According to the official investigation files, her last confirmed communication came approximately 18 hours into the trip, a brief voice message left on Ethan's phone describing an unusual increase in fog and an inexplicable feeling of unease. This message was timestamped at 9:14 a.m. the following day. The inciting incident unfolded when a group of local hikers, traversing a nearby trail on the second day of Sophia's absence, stumbled upon a campsite that bore signs of recent occupation. According to the hikers' sworn statements, recorded in police search documents, the site was meticulously arranged but unsettlingly deserted. The tent was pitched but left open, food supplies untouched, the satellite phone and GPS device noticeably missing. Among the items found was Sophia's well-maintained field guide, left face down on a makeshift table constructed from fallen branches, its pages creased and marked with hastily scribbled notes. Following her failure to check in and reports from hikers, local authorities were promptly alerted to Sophia's disappearance. Search and rescue teams were immediately deployed, scouring the rugged northern sector with trail cameras, drone reconnaissance, and canine units. The official search logs detailed the challenges posed by steep inclines, thick underbrush, and thickening fog that seemed to linger in the valley shafts, defying normal weather patterns. Eyewitness testimony entered the files from several searchers who reported strange auditory phenomena during the search: low-frequency humming, intermittent footsteps on dry leaves, and an eerie silence punctuated by whispers just beyond the edge of hearing. A ranger named Daniel Pierce described the experience. It was like the forest was alive and breathing around us. The sounds didn't come from any one source. It felt everywhere and nowhere at once. The search team's detailed field notes mentioned subtle, yet disconcerting visual irregularities as well. Several searchers noted that while twilight fell, shadows moved counter to the natural path of the sun, distorting the forest's familiar shapes. Some GPS devices failed repeatedly in specific spots, refusing to lock onto satellites, while radios experienced unexplained static and partial transmissions. Sophia's personal journal, recovered near the campsite several days into the search, revealed her growing apprehension. The journal entries chronicled encounters with unfamiliar animal tracks that did not correspond to any species known in the region, strange lights flickering between the trees at night, and a sensation of being watched. Her last written words were fragmented and rushed. They watched through the fog, moving closer. My compass spins wildly, afraid I won't leave this place. The reveal of the story came when search teams located an old hunting cabin, abandoned and half concealed beneath thick vines and moss, approximately 2 miles south of the campsite. The cabin was not on any official maps and had remained undiscovered until satellite imagery from updated forest surveys identified its outline. Inside, investigators found evidence that suggested Sophia had sought refuge: discarded boots, a blood-stained piece of her jacket, and a small, water-damaged survival knife engraved with her initials. Perhaps most unsettling was a series of photographs found in a weatherproof bag tucked beneath loose floorboards. These images were taken days apart, showing the encroaching wilderness engulfing the cabin and shadowy figures lurking just beyond the frame. An expert analysis confirmed the photographs were authentic and likely captured by Sophia herself. The images glowed with an unnatural quality, and several included visual distortions not explainable by camera defects, adding to the case's intrigue. The aftermath of Sophia's disappearance left the community shaken. The official case file concluded without resolution, emphasizing that no physical clue definitively explained her fate. Authorities indicated that the combination of severe weather, uncertain terrain, and possible psychological stresses could have contributed to her disappearance, yet the unusual phenomena reported during the search defied conventional explanation. Interestingly, months after the official search was called off, amateur radio operators in Everwood began picking up brief, unintelligible transmissions on frequencies linked to the national park's emergency channels. These signals included garbled voices and seemingly random Morse code sequences. Attempts to trace the source yielded no conclusive results, but were noted in internal communications as potentially related to missing researchers. Sophia's family has since advocated for renewed efforts to locate her, fueled by lingering hope and the mysterious nature of the case. Local folklore has since woven her story into the broader tapestry of Green Mountain's unexplained disappearances, reinforcing the forest's reputation as a place where nature's power blends with the unknown. Within the ever-shifting mists of the Green Mountain, the unanswered question remains what claims Sophia Grant. And does the forest still hold her voice, carried faintly on the breeze through the silent trees? The disappearance of Lee Thompson. A documentary filmmaker named Lee Thompson was a 45-year-old documentary filmmaker known for his interest in remote, untouched regions of the American wilderness. Based in Ashland, Montana, Lee had built a reputation for crafting deeply immersive nature documentaries. His work required long solo trips deep into forested areas where few dared to venture, filming rare wildlife in situ, often over weeks at a time. According to his production notes and verified communications with his film crew, Lee was cautious and well prepared, deeply respectful of wilderness dangers, and always maintained a strict check-in schedule. Ashland was a small mountain town nestled against the Bitterroot Mountains, a gateway to wide, rugged forests popular among hunters, hikers, and researchers. Life there was slow, dominated by seasonal changes and the natural rhythms of the environment. The surrounding forests were revered but also feared for their unpredictability and legend-laden past, including stories of disappearances and strange phenomena recounted in local lore. Lee had lived in Ashland for over a decade and considered himself intimately familiar with the terrain. In early September 2020, Lee undertook an ambitious project to document the elusive mountain ghost butterfly, a species rarely seen except in the densest parts of the Bitterroot Range. His plan involved establishing a remote filming station at an elevation of nearly 7,000 feet, hoping to capture the butterfly's mating ritual. His itinerary, shared with local authorities and family, indicated a 2-week stay at a base camp called Echo Ridge, complete with satellite communication equipment and a backup ranger radio. Lee's last confirmed contact occurred on the morning of September 12. According to radio logs, he checked in at 7:34 a.m., reporting clear weather and readiness to begin his observations. However, the official case file records that later that day, at 4:17 p.m., a faint transmission was picked up on his satellite phone, a fragmented message simply stating, "I am not alone," growing dark, before cutting off abruptly. Search operations began immediately after Lee missed his scheduled evening check-in. Rangers and volunteers deployed into the forest, focusing on the path between Lee's base camp and nearby ridges where he was expected to move for better filming vantage points. Initial searches yielded little but confirmed his camper van still parked at a designated lookout, locked and undisturbed. The inciting incident for the investigation was when search teams discovered Lee's camera equipment along a minor game trail leading away from the base camp. The camera was damaged, its lens cracked and body scarred as if dropped with force. Notably, several memory cards were missing. This was an alarming detail documented in both the police records and film production reports. Eyewitness testimonials contributed unsettling details to the case. An experienced hunter, Clara Mills, recounted encountering a strange figure near a ridge the second day after Lee's disappearance. She described hearing Lee's distinctive voice calling for help in a muffled tone, though the source was never visible. Clara's testimony was corroborated by others who heard unusual, unexplained noises, whispers carried by the wind, and fleeting glimpses of shadowy shapes among the dense pines. As the investigation progressed, search parties noted disturbing environmental quirks. According to ranger diaries included in the case file, Compasses and GPS devices registered conflicting data in certain parts of the forest, sometimes spinning erratically, other times reporting coordinates that did not align with known maps. Several radios experienced persistent static interference, making communication difficult. In addition, wildlife behavior was documented as abnormal. Game cameras placed by the rangers recorded frequent visits by deer and bears, but all exhibited signs of distress, erratic movement, avoidance of certain areas, and vocalizations unlike normal calls. Ecologists involved in the search described the animal's behavior as heightened and unusual, raising concerns about environmental factors affecting the forest. The most chilling find came when searchers located a small notebook thought to belong to Lee, tucked beneath a moss-covered rock. This notebook contained daily journal entries, some written in shaky handwriting, detailing a growing sense of dread. Lee wrote of strange lights glimmering through the trees at night, a feeling of being watched, and repeated sounds resembling distant footsteps with no visible source. The final entry read, "I fear something follows me beyond sight." The forest is no longer safe. The reveal of the case took a grim turn when a team discovered a hidden clearing several miles from the base camp, not mapped on any official forestry charts. Within the clearing were remnants of a smoldering fire, scattered camping supplies, and what appeared to be long, deep scratches etched into tree bark, encircling the area far too large for any known animal. DNA swabs taken from the bark yielded inconclusive results, adding to the mystery. In a particularly perplexing development, a remote trail camera footage captured over several nights showed flickering lights and shadowy figures moving near the clearing after dark. These images were analyzed rigorously, with no evidence that they were staged or digitally altered. Some experts speculated the figures might represent natural phenomena misinterpreted in poor light, but the official report maintained the footage was unexplainable within conventional frameworks. The aftermath of Lee's disappearance triggered an extended multi-agency investigation involving state police, park rangers, and independent forensic specialists. Despite extensive ground and aerial searches, no physical trace of Lee was ever found beyond the evidence recovered. Official records indicate that the area near Edgar Ridge was subsequently closed to public access due to safety concerns. Multiple incidents of reported strange occurrences increased after Lee's disappearance, including reports from hikers describing disorientation, auditory hallucinations, and unseen presences. To this day, Lee Thompson's disappearance remains a perplexing mystery documented thoroughly in verified reports, witness statements, and scientific analyses. His legacy as a meticulous filmmaker is remembered not just for his passion, but for the haunting questions his disappearance left behind. In the wilderness, where light and shadow blend into one, the boundary between the known and the unknowable is razor thin. Lee Thompson crossed that line and vanished into the silence that follows. The enigma of David Langley. David Langley was a 33-year-old geologist and avid outdoorsman living in Brattleboro, Vermont. Meticulous in his work and passionate about the geological formations of the Northeast, David often embarked on extended solo excursions into the forests surrounding his hometown to collect rock samples and conduct seismic studies. Known among friends and colleagues for his calm demeanor and thorough nature, he was a man who left no detail unrecorded. According to official university field reports and colleague testimonies, David was conscientious, routinely filing movement plans with both his research institution and his family. The forests near Brattleboro were characterized by sprawling deciduous trees and rocky outcrops, laced with a network of hiking trails and old logging roads. Locals held the woods in deep respect, telling stories passed through generations about unnatural phenomena experienced by loggers, hikers, and hunters alike. David had spent years mapping these woods, but had recently been drawn to an unexplored area known as Hemlock Hollow. a remote valley cloaked in thick evergreens and reputed for strange acoustic properties. On an early June morning in 2016, David set out from his residence with a sense of purpose. His goal was to explore Hemlock Hollow, gather soil and rock data, and assess recent tectonic activity in the region. He carried with him advanced surveying equipment, a rugged tablet loaded with geospatial software, a standard-issue GPS, a handheld radio linked to the local ranger station, and an assortment of personal survival gear. Before his departure, he left a detailed itinerary with his sister, Lucy, stating he would check in twice daily. According to official records, David's last verified communication was at 9:05 a.m. on June 4th, when he provided a routine status update expressing optimism about the clarity of geological strata discovered near the Hollow's entrance. Approximately 3 hours later, his radio transceiver emitted a series of unclear, fragmented signals interspersed with moments of static and low, unsettling sounds that search and rescue teams later described as unidentifiable. When David missed his scheduled 1:00 p.m. check-in, concern quickly escalated. Rescue operations were promptly initiated by local authorities and coordinated with members of the Vermont State Police and the Department of Natural Resources. Initial searches focused on Hemlock Hollow's perimeter and key geological landmarks. The inciting incident of the investigation, as documented in state police reports, was the discovery of David's surveying equipment abandoned on a seldom-used trail about a mile inside the forest from the Hollow's mouth. The tablet was powered off but showed signs of recent usage. The GPS showed conflicting positional data that shifted erratically over several hours before ceasing entirely. No signs of a struggle or forced entry were noted. Eyewitness reports from volunteer searchers included spare and troubling details. Several described an oppressive atmospheric change as teams ventured deeper into the hollow. Temperature fluctuations were significant and sudden. Fog banked swiftly over the trees, obscuring the forest floor and casting eerie shadows. A searcher named Peter Haynes documented hearing indistinct murmurs that appeared to surround him, but offered no discernible words like voices carried by the wind in an indecipherable tongue. Adding to the mystery, local ranger logs reported several equipment malfunctions in the search area. Radios filled with static and lost satellite GPS signals. Compasses spun uncontrollably, and trail cameras displayed corrupted images. Search team members intermittently experienced brief bouts of disorientation and nausea, as noted in their official statements. Further troubling evidence emerged when searchers uncovered David's jacket, heavily torn and stained with fresh mud, lying near a shallow stream. Nearby footprints suggested a single person had passed recently, but the stride length and gait pattern were inconsistent with David's physical profile. Experts consulting on the case could not attribute the tracks to any known local wildlife, deepening suspicions that something unexplainable was at work. A pivotal breakthrough occurred when search parties located a crude shelter unmistakably constructed by human hands, concealed beneath dense thickets and fallen branches. Inside lay remnants of a fire pit, a partially consumed food ration, and David's waterproof notebook containing his hand-scrawled notes. The entries revealed increasing agitation and confusion, with references to strange phenomena. Voices in the wind, shifting shadows, the stones hum with voices. "I am not alone here." The final page was smeared with what appeared to be dirt and faint traces of blood, ending mid-sentence. The official reveal unfolded weeks later, when wildlife cameras installed by local ecologists captured unusual activity around the shelter after dark. Footage showed inexplicable lights hovering between the trees and large, vaguely humanoid shapes moving swiftly beyond the camera's reach. Analysis of this footage, included in the police dossier, described the figures as neither human nor animal in gait or form, contributing to the case's enduring enigma. Despite extensive and repeated search efforts, no further traces of David Langley were found. The investigation remained open with no clear conclusion. Law enforcement documents concluded the disappearance remains unexplained, with evidence suggesting environmental and psychological factors combined with unknown elements beyond our current understanding. Following the incident, Hemlock Hollow was designated a restricted zone by the state's Department of Natural Resources. Subsequent reports by hikers occasionally mention strange phenomena in the area, disorienting sounds, inexplicable lights, and fleeting shadow figures, though these remain largely anecdotal and unverified. David's family, while devastated, continues to seek answers, requesting case reviews and advocating for further research into the Hollow's mysteries. His disappearance stands as one of the most perplexing forest vanishings of recent decades, documented thoroughly through verified reports, technological evidence, and witness testimony. In the endless embrace of Hemlock Hollow, among stones that hum and shadows that lurk, David Langley vanished not just from sight, but from the very fabric of certainty. The disappearance of Jennifer Kim, an environmental scientist based in Asheville, North Carolina, named Jennifer Kim, was a 28-year-old with a degree in ecology and several years of experience studying forest ecosystems. Jennifer was considered passionate and precise in her research. She specialized in the study of rare fungi and mosses, often trekking into remote parts of the Appalachian Mountains to document species previously unrecorded. Her work required detailed note-taking, regular data uploads through satellite link, and strict adherence to safety protocols. Jennifer was well liked among colleagues and loved for her calm professionalism and relentless drive to uncover nature's hidden secrets. Asheville was a vibrant yet tranquil town, hooked by the sprawling Blue Ridge Mountains and known for its proximity to some of the most pristine forested lands in the southeast. The forests offered stunning scenery but concealed numerous risks: rough terrain, sudden weather shifts, and a history riddled with unexplained disappearances. Jennifer's office was filled with maps, field guides, and photographs documenting her many expeditions. But her final trip into the uncharted Ironwood Ridge would become her most infamous. On the morning of May 15, 2018, Jennifer set off to study a newly discovered patch of rare lichens reported in the Ironwood Ridge area. She was equipped with a satellite phone, GPS device, a digital camera, and a portable weather station. She had arranged to check in with her supervisor at 8 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m. daily. Clear weather and mild temperatures marked the early hours of her journey. The inciting incident took place mid-morning on May 16th, according to the official records, when Jennifer's satellite phone transmitted a highly distorted message captured by the research station. Acoustic experts reviewing the transmission described it as an uncommonly interrupted signal distorted by static and layered background noises. The message contained fragments of Jennifer's voice expressing confusion and fear. "I'm lost. Something is moving. Help!" The transmission cut out suddenly, and all subsequent attempts to reach Jennifer failed. Her failure to make the noon and evening check-ins triggered immediate concern, and the local search and rescue SAR was activated. Coordinated teams comprising park rangers, volunteers, and forestry officials embarked on a hunt focusing on her last known GPS coordinates near the northern slope of Ironwood Ridge. During the initial phase of the search, SAR teams found Jennifer's abandoned backpack lying beside a seldom-used forest path. The pack contained most of her supplies except for the satellite phone and camera, which were missing. Her GPS device was present but showed erratic tracking data with sudden sharp deviations. The path was heavily overgrown, with downed trees and uneven ground slowing progress, as documented in search logs. Eyewitness accounts from hikers in nearby sections of the ridge described an unsettling silence permeating parts of the forest, a contrast to the usual sounds of birds and insects. One hiker, Robert Mills, reported hearing low rumbling noises resembling distant thunder, although weather conditions indicated clear skies and no storms. Another volunteer searcher recorded an unexplained chill and a feeling of being watched during a night search, something recorded in his statement to authorities. The build-up of the investigation also uncovered strange artifacts near the area. Rangers discovered clusters of oddly shaped stones arranged in circular patterns reminiscent of ritualistic markings, although no known indigenous group recorded similar practices in the region. These stone formations were not present on any previous forest surveys. Samples collected revealed no human contaminants, suggesting they predated modern activity but had escaped prior notice due to the area's remoteness. Further compounding the mystery was the discovery of a small clearing deep within Ironwood Ridge. Here, searchers found what appeared to be the remnants of a makeshift camp. Ashes from a fire pit were cold, but unburnt wood and food remnants were scattered, as if abandoned in haste. A piece of tattered fabric identified as part of Jennifer's jacket was found nearby, as well as several emergency flares, all consistent with official gear she would have carried. Perhaps most disturbing was the recovery of Jennifer's digital camera in an overturned hollow tree trunk a short distance from the camp. Though the camera was damaged with water intrusion, forensic technicians succeeded in extracting deleted files which were analyzed by investigators. The recovered photos chronicled her last days, documenting her scientific observations, but also increasingly distressing scenes, blurred images of shadowed figures lurking behind tree trunks, trees with strange markings carved into the bark, and inconsistent lighting that distorted the photo's natural hues. The reveal of the case came when a small leather-bound journal was found concealed beneath rocks at the edge of the camp. The journal's pages were damp but legible. Jennifer's entries shifted from scientific inquiry to expressions of growing paranoia and confusion. She wrote about her compass behaving erratically, her GPS losing satellites at critical moments, and repeated encounters with something waiting beyond the visible. The final entry was cryptic and chilling. "I don't think I am alone here. The forest whispers in shapes I cannot chase." Despite exhaustive searches and analysis, Jennifer Kim was never located. The official incident report underscores a lack of conclusive evidence explaining her disappearance. Theories ranged from environmental misadventure to encounters with unknown forces, yet none could satisfactorily account for the peculiar phenomena recorded during the search. Months after the incident, the park logged increased reports of hikers experiencing disorientation and sensory disturbances near Ironwood Ridge. Multiple hikers reported sudden nausea, hallucinations, and the sensation of being followed by unseen entities. These reports, while anecdotal, were taken seriously enough to warrant temporary closure of the trail for safety assessments. Jennifer's disappearance remains open, with detailed documentation housed in federal and state archives. Her family continues to advocate for renewed searches and scientific inquiry, pushing for deeper understanding of the extraordinary conditions that surrounded her final expedition. In the shadows of Ironwood Ridge, amidst whispered echoes and fading trails, the question endures: what became of Jennifer Kim? And what secret does the forest guard with such relentless silence? The vanishing of Michael Reynolds, a 40-year-old wildlife researcher named Michael Reynolds, was stationed in Flagstaff, Arizona. With over 15 years of experience documenting the habits of elusive desert species, Michael was highly regarded for his methodical approach and respect for the harsh environment he studied. Known to friends and colleagues as calm and meticulous, Michael's expeditions required arduous treks through remote canyons and arid wilderness. His gear list was extensive: satellite phone, high-frequency radio, GPS tracker, medical kit, and professional-grade camera equipment, all aimed at ensuring reliable data collection. According to university logs and verified communications, Michael always left detailed itineraries and maintained regular contact with his team during fieldwork. Flagstaff sat on the edge of vast deserts and forested plateaus, a region of shifting landscapes and dramatic elevation changes. The area bordered the Coconino National Forest, a terrain marked by deep canyons, rocky cliffs, and sprawling pine forests. It was here, amid the often treacherous cliffs and desert floor, that Michael pursued his latest study on rare mountain lions believed to roam the region. His project required prolonged stays around Bray Canyon, a remote area historically known for its incredible biodiversity and mysterious disappearances stretching back decades. On July 9, 2019, Michael began his expedition, traveling into Bray Canyon with the intention of installing new motion-activated cameras and collecting biological samples. The night before his departure, he spoke with his wife in confirmed satellite communication, reassuring her that the weather forecast was clear and his preparations complete. The inciting incident occurred the following afternoon, May 10th, when Michael failed to send his scheduled check-in at 2:00 p.m. The official emergency protocols initiated 3 hours later. Local rangers deployed search teams the next morning, coordinating efforts to cover both his last known location and possible movement paths within the canyon system. Initial findings were sparse but telling. Near a narrow creek bed, searchers found Michael's backpack, opened but undisturbed, with supplies intact, but his GPS tracker and satellite phone missing. Near the pack was a pair of cracked sunglasses and a trail of footprints that abruptly stopped near a steep embankment, an area difficult to access and marked by loose rocks. According to official search logs, no evidence of recent wildlife activity was noted in the immediate vicinity. Desperate calls from rescue teams to Michael's satellite phone led only to intermittent bursts of static. Communications logs documented that the signals received were distorted, overlaid with faint sounds described by operators as whispered voices and indiscernible rustling. When search teams attempted to track these signals, devices failed repeatedly in the area closest to the canyon's edge, where GPS readings dropped off entirely. The build-up of the mystery deepened with eyewitness reports from hikers and local hunters who entered Bray Canyon during the search. Multiple individuals reported strange occurrences, hearing their names called from behind dense thickets, sudden loss of direction despite GPS assistance, and unusual sightings of glowing orbs floating silently above tree lines. Authorities recorded these testimonies in search diaries and added warnings about the psychological effects of prolonged exposure to the canyon as deep recesses. Forestry officials reported anomalous environmental phenomena that coincided with Michael's disappearance. Cameras captured erratic animal movements, deer stopping mid-step to stare blankly, birds ceasing calls for extended periods, and quotes howling without apparent cause. Chest samples from water sources collected at the time showed no contamination, but were noted for unusual pH variances, unexplained by natural causes. A pivotal clue arrived when searchers found a severely damaged and waterlogged field notebook discarded near a narrow cave entrance. Analysis indicated it belonged to Michael. The pages were partially unreadable but contained detailed observations about his research intertwined with personal entries indicating growing apprehension, including descriptions of a shadow that moves without sound and steps following me even when unseen. A particularly chilling passage read, "I don't know if fear or something else is clawing at me. The canyon feels alive in ways I can't explain." The reveal of Michael's disappearance came when a volunteer searcher found a walkie-talkie deep within an uncharted section of the canyon, programmed on Michael's frequency. The device emitted a single chilling message, recorded in official search logs, thought to be Michael's voice. "The cliffs watch. The shadows swallow." The message ended abruptly without further transmission, despite several immediate attempts to respond. Despite exhaustive ground and aerial searches coordinated by multiple agencies, Michael Reynolds was never found. The official investigative summary cites the combination of challenging geography, possible mental disorientation, and unexplained environmental factors as contributing to his continued absence. The case remains open and continues to perplex local authorities and specialists. Following the incident, Bray Canyon gained an ominous reputation among regional hikers and scientists alike. Increased reports of sensory disorientation and encounters with unexplained phenomena prompted temporary restrictions on public access. Rangers issued frequent advisories citing safety concerns linked to both natural hazards and the canyon's unsettled history. Michael's family has since actively pushed for continued investigation, hoping for advancements in search technology or new leads. The disappearance remains a carefully documented and verified case, preserved within mountain rescue files, law enforcement dossiers, and research logs contributed by diverse experts. Beneath the sun-baked cliffs and whispering shadows of Bray Canyon, Michael Reynolds vanished into the unknown, leaving behind a trail of questions as enduring as the desert winds that sweep through the silent rocks. The vanishing of Holly Carter, a freelance wildlife photographer named Holly Carter, was a 31-year-old based in Missoula, Montana. Known for her keen eye and patient nature, she specialized in capturing elusive mountain wildlife, often forging deep into the forests of the Rocky Mountains. Holly was methodical and careful, always preparing extensively for her solo expeditions. Her gear included a professional DSLR camera, a sturdy tripod, a handheld GPS device, a satellite phone, and an emergency beacon. According to verified communications and the statements of friends and family, Holly was meticulous about her safety protocols, always keeping at least 2 forms of contact active during her trips and updating her location regularly. Missoula was a gateway town surrounded by dense pine forests and rugged mountain terrain, offering both breathtaking beauty and substantial risks. The nearby Bitterroot National Forest was heavily trafficked by outdoor enthusiasts, but some regions remained remote and challenging. The forest was also known for a long, unsettling history of disappearances and unusual incidents. Legends about people vanishing without a trace, whispered around campfires, carried in police reports, and immortalized in local lore. On June 20, 2021, Holly embarked on what was intended to be a 4-day photography trek near the remote Lolo Peak region within the Bitterroot Range. She planned to capture images of the elusive mountain goat populations during their summer grazing and had shared her detailed itinerary with her sister, who lived in Seattle. Her last confirmed check-in was early on the morning of June 21st. A brief message sent at 7:45 a.m. Perfect light this morning. Heading up the west slope. We'll check in noon. The inciting incident emerged later that day. At approximately 12:30 p.m., satellite communication received a brief, distorted transmission. An audio analysis later verified that Hollier's voice was caught on a transmission filled with crackling static interrupted by words "Cante," moving fast, path lost, followed by a sudden cutoff. Despite continuous efforts, no further messages were received, and her satellite phone went dark. Concerned by the missed check-ins, Holly's sister alerted local authorities, and a coordinated search and rescue SAR mission was deployed immediately. The search area spanned the steep slopes and winding ridges around Lolo Peak, encompassing rough terrain characterized by steep cliffs, thick foliage, and dense undergrowth. Teehee official SAR logs described the region as challenging even for the most experienced personnel, requiring cautious maneuvering and complex logistics. Early in the operation, search parties found Holly's abandoned backpack near Faint Mountain Trail. The bag, containing camera lenses, snacks, and a water bottle, showed no signs of struggle or disturbance, but critical items were missing. The handheld GPS device and her emergency beacon were nowhere to be found. The official investigation noted that the loss of these essential navigation tools significantly reduced the chances of emergency location tracking. Alongside Holly's backpack, a pair of hiking boots were found at a slight distance, partially submerged in a small creek. The boots were muddy and showed signs of wear consistent with hurried movement over rough ground. Forensic reports confirmed the boots belonged to Holly. No other footwear or clothing was found nearby. Witnesses participating in the search noted unusual environmental aspects. Several volunteers reported a growing sense of disorientation, even with functional compasses and GPS units, which sometimes malfunctioned or provided inconsistent readings. One searcher recounted hearing faint, low-frequency sounds described as whispers carried on the wind, although no other team members confirmed hearing them. The sensory oddities were catalogued in SAR team journals and contributed to the mounting unease surrounding the search. Adding to the mystery, wildlife behavior throughout the region shifted noticeably during the search. Trail cameras recorded an absence of small mammals and birds in areas where they were usually abundant. Some rangers described the forest as unnervingly silent, an observation formerly noted in official ranger field books. Additionally, several search dogs refused to continue into specific brush areas, displaying signs of anxiety or discomfort, an unusual behavior that trainers flagged as exceptional. A breakthrough came on the fourth day of searching when responders located a torn photograph slightly covered by fallen leaves near a ridge overlook. The photo was an image taken by Holly several weeks earlier, a rare shot of a mountain goat perched atop a rock outcrop. The return of this photo, separated from the rest of her belongings, suggested that Holly had been in this general vicinity recently, but no other physical traces were found. Further investigation uncovered a small makeshift shelter created from branches and tarps, estimated to have been built within days of Holly's disappearance. The shelter contained scattered debris, a weathered notebook, a plastic water flask, and fragments of a safety whistle. Handwriting analysis and forensic testing confirmed the notebook belonged to Holly. The entries detailed her initial calm and hope for a brief stay, but progressively documented increasing confusion and fear, culminating in notes about shadows moving just beyond sight and unseen eyes watching. The last legible entry mentioned finding refuge near the ridge, but the forest won't let me leave. The reveal was bolstered by recordings from a ranger tower's audio sensor, which caught anomalous signals and soft cries interpreted as distress calls on a frequency used by Holly as emergency beacon. Attempts to triangulate the source reached a dense pocket of forest characterized by heavy undergrowth and thick tree coverage, an area notorious for GPS blackouts and difficult terrain. Despite comprehensive, multi-agency efforts featuring foot patrols, drone surveillance, and thermal imaging, no direct sighting or physical recovery of Holly has occurred. The case file remains open, sealed with no definitive explanation, but marked by a compilation of verified irregular phenomena, equipment failures, environmental disturbances, and credible eyewitness accounts of auditory anomalies. Holly's family continues to push for renewed searches and scientific inquiry, seeking answers within a forest that guards its secrets fiercely. Her disappearance stands among the documented, verified cases of individuals lost within the thickets and shadows of the American wilderness, where beauty and terror exist side by side. The woods remember those who wander them. For Holly Carter, the silence that followed was not absence, it was something far more elusive. The vanishing of Daniel Harris, a freelance journalist and nature documentarian named Daniel Harris, was a 36-year-old living in Bend, Oregon. Known for his calm professionalism and detail-driven storytelling, Daniel often traveled alone into remote wilderness areas to report on wildlife conservation efforts and environmental challenges. Colleagues described him as methodical and resilient, with a steady temperament that suited the unpredictable conditions of solo fieldwork. His equipment list was extensive, including a high-resolution camera, handheld GPS, two-way radio, satellite phone, and a comprehensive survival kit. According to verified communications and family testimony, Daniel maintained strict safety routines and regularly updated his location during extended trips. Bend itself was a hub for outdoor activities framed by the Cascade Mountains and surrounded by dense pine forests. The nearby Deschutes National Forest offered spectacular landscapes, but was also known for its marshy, labyrinthine trails and sudden weather shifts. Local legend spoke of the forest's eerie silence in some regions where animals seemed to disappear and hikers went missing. Daniel, with his journalistic curiosity, had recently planned an expedition into one such area known as Widow's Hollow, a rugged portion of the forest notorious for disorienting twists and unexplained phenomena. On August 15, 2022, Daniel set out early from his cabin, intending to spend 5 days documenting rare amphibians and their fragile habitats in Widow's Hollow. He informed his editor and closest family of his detailed itinerary, with scheduled daily check-ins via satellite phone. Initial weather forecasts predicted clear skies, and Daniel was optimistic as he left, confident in his preparation. His last verified communication occurred at 9:12 a.m. on August 16th. A voice message sent to his editor spoke of favorable conditions and excitement about upcoming scenes to film. The morning mist is lifting. This place is untouched, perfect for the story. Check-in at noon, however. The noon check-in never came. The inciting incident recorded in the official case file began when a group of hikers reported finding Daniel's satellite phone discarded beside a small creek within Widow's Hollow. The phone was powered off but showed recent use. The search and rescue teams logged this discovery and immediately initiated a grid search of the surrounding territory. Daniel's GPS device was not found. The abandoned phone indicated Daniel might have been moving away from his original planned route. Search efforts faced difficulties navigating the maze-like forest trails, often overgrown and shifting due to recent storms. Official logs mention that GPS and satellite signals in the area frequently failed or fluctuated, frustrating rescue coordinators and complicating communication. During the search, volunteers and officials reported bizarre environmental phenomena. Audible sensations of whispering winds were often described as voices indistinct yet persistent. Wildlife activity deviated from normal patterns. Birds ceased singing abruptly, and animals appeared to avoid the area, as testified in ranger logs. A particularly chilling report came from volunteer searcher Laura Mitchell, who documented hearing Daniel's voice calling for help through a fog-laden valley at dusk. Her testimony was corroborated by others reporting similar paranormal auditory experiences. The official investigation noted these calls on sound monitors but found no physical persons at the source locations. Further disturbing clues emerged when Daniel's camera was found in a shallow ravine buried under fallen leaves and soil. The camera was damaged but held several underlit photographs. Forensic analysts recovered images showing Daniel's research path, the photographs slowly becoming blurred and distorted as if taken in haste or panic. Some pictures unexpectedly included vague shadowy figures in the background, the nature of which remains unexplained. Investigators discovered Daniel's field notebook in a hollow tree trunk near the camera. The notebook's entries documented his growing unease, describing strange sensations and changing weather patterns. In his final legible entry, Daniel wrote, "The forest seems alive, shifting around me. I am being watched. Must keep moving. Darkness follows, despite extensive and coordinated search efforts employing trackers, drones, and thermal imaging. No further physical evidence of Daniel was found. The search was officially suspended after 10 days with no resolution. The case remains open, marked by contradictory data and unexplained phenomena surrounding Daniel's disappearance." Daniel Harris's family continues to campaign for further investigation, emphasizing the need to understand the unusual conditions at Widow's Hollow. His case is catalogued in National Missing Person archives and serves as a somber reminder of the unpredictable dangers present in even the most beautiful forests. Within the whispering shadows of Widow's Hollow, Daniel Harris's story is etched in silence, an unanswered call fading slowly into the endless woods. The mystery of Patricia Evans. A botanist and university professor named Patricia Evans was a 42-year-old residing in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. A gentle demeanor masked her laser-focused devotion to the study of rare forest flora. Well respected in academic circles for pioneering research on alpine plant life, Patricia frequently ventured into the region's deepest forests, collecting specimens and recording environmental changes. According to university records and family accounts, she always left meticulously mapped plans and maintained redundant lines of communication, strictly adhering to safety procedures honed over decades. Coeur d'Alene sat cradled by sprawling forests and crystalline lakes, its proximity to the untamed Selkirk Mountains making it a prime destination for naturalists and hikers. But the wilderness around it was as forbidding as it was breathtaking, marked by jagged ridges, deep gullies, and patches of near impassable forest. Local legend told of areas where compasses would work and where silence fell so thick and sudden it could freeze the blood. In July 2020, Patricia embarked on a week-long solo expedition into one of the lesser explored tracts of the Selkirks, a high-altitude basin known as Crow's Rest. The purpose was to study an outbreak of an extremely rare orchid species rumored among locals, but never confirmed scientifically. On July 13th, she parked her four-wheel drive at the trailhead, checked her satellite phone, and recorded a video message outlining her schedule and precise GPS coordinates for her department. The last confirmed sighting of Patricia was by a pair of hikers who shared a brief conversation as she was preparing to leave the main path and head into an unmaintained game trail. In their official statements to police, they described her as cheerful, well-equipped, and entirely at ease. Patricia's evening check-in that day was brief. At Basin, orchids in sight. Will update in the morning. The inciting incident was recorded at 4:19 a.m. the next day when Patricia's satellite phone sent a distress alert, which transmitted only partial data. Fork shifting, no bearings please. The message was abruptly cut off by static, and all subsequent attempts to reach her failed. Within hours, university officials sounded the alarm, and search and rescue teams were activated with support from local law enforcement and park rangers. Searchers quickly located Patricia's abandoned tent on a mossy shelf overlooking a steep ravine. Her bedding was disheveled, and her field journal and laptop lay open on the ground, but her boots and jacket were missing. The GPS device was found powered down in a side pocket of her backpack. The official SAR logs noted signs of a recent fire, as well as uneaten food and a nearly full canteen, suggesting Patricia had not planned a hurried departure. Teams searching nearby terrain encountered overwhelming fog despite otherwise clear weather predictions. Several rangers documented compass malfunctions, with needles swinging despite stationary positions. Birds and wildlife seemed absent from the forest. Volunteer Donna Avery would later submit a statement describing the sensation of being surrounded by a heavy, almost tangible silence, interrupted only by soft crackling that could not be traced to any mechanical equipment. A subsequent discovery provided a chilling detail. About 2 miles downhill from Patricia's camp, hidden beneath a heap of fallen branches, a search dog uncovered her jacket. Slipped inside one of its pockets was a voice recorder, still holding a little battery life. The final recording, dated just hours after her last text, played for investigators as a harrowing testament. There's something out there. Fog moves against the wind. Sounds footsteps, but nothing I can see. I tried to go back. The path isn't there. So quiet, like waiting. The recording ended in hurried breathing and whispering static. Adding to the strangeness, Patricia's meticulous research notes collected from her field journal had changed tone in her final entries, shifting from scientific detail to brief, almost frantic lines. Last, compass spins. The orchids are gone. Something at the edge, the last legible note read, "Must keep moving. If I stop, it finds me." Despite 10 days of intensive, multi-agency searching using thermal drones, ground teams, and even scent trackers flown in from neighboring states, no further trace of Patricia was ever found. The basin's thick fog and unsteady ground defeated GPS and radio signals. Rescue planners, referencing the logs, stated that some areas seemed to rearrange themselves, with landmarks and fallen logs moving between searches. Haunted by the lack of closure, Patricia's colleagues have since filed academic papers on phenomena experienced during the search, reporting on both equipment failures and powerful, inexplicable feelings of being watched. The region of Crow's Rest has been rarely visited since, now marked by warning signs and increasingly avoided by even seasoned hikers. The unsolved case of Patricia Evans stands as one of the most meticulously documented and baffling forest disappearances on record. Every step of her routine, every plan, was verifiable right up to the point she vanished into the mist. Her legacy, preserved in detailed reports, and the rare orchid she championed, is now shadowed by questions no investigation has been able to answer. And so, beneath the ever-shifting fog, where the forest holds its own council, Patricia Evans remains a presence, her loss a mystery breathlessly recounted among the highest pines. The case of the last troopers, the Blackwood Grove mystery. Blackwood Grove, an expanse of ancient firs, hemlocks, and shadowed ravines, lay at the edge of Revere County, Washington. The grove wasn't just another forest. It was a sprawling, untamed land, thick with folk and folklore. Residents claimed the trees were older than the town itself, holding secrets generations refused to utter aloud. But for State Trooper Robert Lee and his trainee, Isaac Murphy, these were only stories. Their business was safety, not legends. Robert Lee was a 48-year-old veteran of the Highway Patrol, respected for his unflappable call in emergencies and his exhaustive attention to routine. Isaac Murphy was fresh out of the academy, eager but cautious, and already showing promise under Lee's hard-nosed mentorship. On the night of November 2, 2016, their assignment was straightforward: investigate reports of missing hikers and strange lights in the Grove's north sector. The last call that came to dispatch described panicked shouting in the background and then a line gone dead. The troopers arrived at Blackwood's edge just after dark. Rain fell in steady sheets, mingling with the low fog that coiled around their cruiser's headlights. Their gear included radios patched at the district station, high-lumen flashlights, service pistols, and GPS units set to ping every 20 minutes. The system was newly piloted for search operations. Lee checked in. Unit 341 entering Blackwood North Sector at 2143. Rain heavy, visibility low. Will report at 220 inside the forest. The darkness thickened. Their footsteps sent echoes down paths lined with brambles and damp earth. Every 200 yards, Lee would halt, marking their coordinates and scanning with the flashlight. Isaac recorded notes in his training log, jotting down unusually silent. No crickets, no wind above the canopy. The silence was so complete that every occasion of a snapped twig felt deliberate ominous. Their investigation began at the trailhead where two hikers were last seen. Lee found a piece of torn flannel shirt snagged on a branch and a flashlight dead and muddy pointing into underbrush. According to verified police logs and evidence records, the item belonged to missing hiker Ethan Cord, reported missing 40 hours earlier. A mile deeper, Lee radioed in again. The message was logged: found personal item from missing hiker, proceeding northwest towards Signal Beacon. Fog intensifying. Dispatch replied with an acknowledgement. noting slight interference in transmission. Just after 11 p.m., the routine shattered. Isaac, walking ahead, paused at a fork in the trail. A whisper, soft and mechanical, snaked through his radio earpiece. Neither Lee nor dispatch had spoken. Unit 341, confirm location. Unit 341 status came over the frequency, but the second voice, barely audible, repeated Isaac's first name in a garbled cadence. At 11:07 p.m., the troopers reached Blackwood's Central Basin, a clearing littered with broken branches and evidence of recent campfire, a circle of scorched rocks, surrounded by footprints. But it was not only footprints. The soil was torn in places, clawed apart with marks larger than human hands could make, running in circles around the fire. Lee snapped digital photos, sent coordinates, and reported disturbance at basin, signs of struggle, tracks unknown origin, request backup. Rain fell heavier, and fog swelled into thick walls that moved against the wind. Both GPS units malfunctioned, spinning coordinates that placed them in places they knew didn't exist, sometimes readings from miles away, sometimes in the middle of the grove's ancient pond. Radios alternated between silence and static, punctuated voices, sometimes dispatch, sometimes not. They pressed on, following the deepest track lines into the forest's heart. The flashlight beams bounced off wet bark, illuminating faces carved into old trees, shapes not found in any park ranger records. Lee, documenting everything, muttered, "This place isn't right. We stay together. No heroics." Suddenly, Isaac saw a figure dart through the fog, a pale shape moving unnaturally fast between trees. He called out, but the forest swallowed his voice. Lee spotted the same shape, this time motionless, standing at the foot of a weathered tree. The two advanced, weapons drawn, but when they reached the site, only a patch of disturbed earth and a series of boot prints too many for two people remained. For the next 40 minutes, the two experienced phenomena detailed in official case files. Their flashlights flickered and dimmed, batteries draining far faster than conditions warranted. Both men heard voices, sometimes their own names, sometimes urgent whispers from dispatch, sometimes, most chillingly, a third, unidentifiable voice, low and crooning, echoing through the foliage. With every failed attempt to radio for backup, anxiety mounted. Lee kept his cool, guiding Isaac by hand along tracks that twisted deeper into the forest. The GPS finally died entirely. They marked their location visually: fallen logs, a ridge line, a half-collapsed sign for Devil's Step. Their notes grew frantic. Tracks circling, fork moving. Time seems out of sync. No animal sounds. Trees marked with red clay. Must return at 12:03 a.m. Lee sent out one final message. It was never received, but later found in the radio's digital log. We were lost. Fork is heavy. Last marker Devil's Step. Request immediate extraction. Unknown parties may be present. From here, the official record fragmentizes. Search and rescue crews arrived at dawn, locating the troopers' cruiser at the main road. Doors locked and lights off. Footprints led into the woods but stopped abruptly near the basin. Lee's digital camera and Isaac's notes were recovered, soaked and muddied. The last photograph showed both men walking toward a distant figure standing under a tree line, blurred beyond recognition, limbs disproportionately long. The search for Lee and Murphy continued for a week. Hundreds of volunteers scoured Blackwood Grove, aided by drones and dogs. They found the hiker's torn shirt, two flashlights, one newer, possibly Lee's, and the voice recorder left beside Devil's Step. The recorder contained snippets of static, some utterances Lee's distinct voice, eyes in the fork. Stay together, follow the lights. No further trace of the men was found. The official report concludes with data anomalies, strange movements detected by thermal drones, shifting fog patterns, failures of cameras and radios, and multiple reports from searchers describing feeling watched and sudden spells of confusion and panic. County records confirmed several previous disappearances at Blackwood Grove, but none so meticulously documented by experienced law enforcement. Lee's family still calls for a reopening of the case. Murphy's badge, found at the trailhead months later, remains sealed in the evidence locker, a symbol of a mystery nobody wants to revisit. In Blackwood Grove, the rain never truly stops. Night stretches on endlessly, swallowing routine, sense, and certainty. For Robert Lee and Isaac Murphy, and those who followed them, in the boundary between legend and reality blurred into whispers in the fog. The disappearance of Olivia Marsh, a woman named Olivia Marsh, was a 35-year-old emergency medical technician who lived in Aberdeen, Maine. Quick-thinking, compassionate, and highly trained, Olivia had served on the front lines of disaster response across the state. Her work often took her into the woods for search and rescue operations, and she was renowned for her cool head in life and death situations. Olivia's colleagues admired her precision, her devotion to safety, and her unwavering habit of sending detailed location updates every few hours, whether she was on a routine call or a deep wilderness sweep. Aberdeen bordered the foreboding Pine Glade Wilderness, a vast and confusing network of old-growth, marshy lowlands, hidden ponds, and trails that vanished in fog. The local lore surrounding the woods was notorious. Tales of vanished hikers, haunted groves, and a persistent legend about voices carried on the mist, luring travelers from the path. Olivia respected the rumors but approached her work with the measured discipline of a professional. On October 17, 2023, Olivia joined a multi-agency rescue mission. 2 hikers had gone missing near the Pine Glade's east boundary after a sudden, unseasonable storm swept through the area. Reports from their GPS transmitters indicated one was injured and had halted in an area locally known as Devil's Fen, a place avoided by most locals. Olivia volunteered for the ground search, equipped with her medical kit, satellite phone, emergency radio, thermal camera, and a handheld GPS. She sent her last confirmed message at 7:18 a.m., entering Fen with Team 3. All systems normal. Updates every hour. From the outset, things went wrong. Visibility was minimal. Fog wound through the trees in thick coils. Olivia's messages came in punctually at first, each reporting a little more unease in the terrain, moving north past the fork. Temp dropping. Terrain boggy keeps signal strong. The team's radios reported static at intervals, unexplained bursts of quiet, and voices that didn't belong to any search team member. At 9:30 a.m., the inciting incident occurred. Olivia's thermal camera in use during a sweep of the Fen's southern marsh failed to capture heat signatures that should have been present. Her teammates' images flickered and blurred, and several frames displayed vague figures in the mist, tall and indistinct, standing between trees. The camera's feed cut out repeatedly, and Olivia noted in her audio log, "There's something out here. Feels like more eyes than people." Her last check-in, sent at 10:07 a.m., was rushed and fragmented. Signal fades, voices on every side. Path gone. Advise. Immediately after, her radio received only a loop of static overlaid with faint, unintelligible whispers. Olivia's team tried to respond, but could not locate her signal. Her GPS coordinates drifted away, reporting locations outside the mapped boundary, sometimes impossibly far and then suddenly close. The search team, now growing desperate, retraced her probable route. Footprints led from the last known point into the thickest part of Devil's Fen. There, the mud was churned as though something had moved quickly through, but abrupt stops and changes in direction could not be explained by animals or lost hikers. Nearby, a pair of medical gloves and a blood pressure cuff were discovered, placed deliberately atop a rotting log. Forensic analysis verified the equipment belonged to Olivia. Evidence she was actively working in the moments before she herself vanished. The build-up in the official SAR logs is harrowing. Team members reported bouts of vertigo, uncanny silence, and sudden chills. A few, seasoned even by years in the woods, wrote that the forest seemed to shift, trails looping back on themselves. Specialist Alan Brooks recorded hearing Olivia's voice calling for help, but the sound distorted, coming from impossible distances and then close by. Multiple rescue dogs refused to enter the fen's interior, instead circling and whining at the tree line. A chilling artifact deepened the dread. Olivia's emergency sat phone was found, powered off and tucked under her jacket, which lay draped across a low branch, dry despite the heavy fog. A field notebook in the jacket's pocket contained only 3 hastily written lines. Not alone. Moving shadows. Path gone, air heavy, alongside. Her thermal camera's memory card held corrupted images, faint patterns of tall figures appearing in consecutive shots, never the same shape or position twice. As teams advanced, support techs reported electronic disturbances, flashlights and GPS units drained at abnormal rates, infrared sensors malfunctioned, communications breaking down. At 1:14 p.m., an electrical engineer monitoring rescue comms documented a burst of static during which Olivia's voice could be faintly discerned, repeating, "Come back. The path isn't real," then fading away. The reveal of the story arrives with the recovery of a time-stamped audio log recorded after Olivia's last contact, captured from an area bordering Devil's Fen. In this log, her voice is steady but urgent. "If this is found, know the fog isn't natural. Something is here old waiting. Tell my family I tried. Get everyone out." A burst of footsteps and heavy breathing ends the recording. The aftermath involves exhaustive searching, ground patrols, drones, air support, none finding traces beyond her scattered belongings. Teams reported persistent electronic disruptions and feelings of dread. Some rescues terminated early after team members developed unexplained anxiety and disorientation. The mission was officially suspended after 7 days, with local authorities posting advisories and even temporarily closing the fen to all traffic. Olivia's family maintains hope for closure, but the case now joins dozens of unsolved vanishings catalogued in Pineglade's official records. Her disappearance is considered unexplained, compounded by environmental and psychological factors, and has become the subject of internal reviews, documentaries, and folk warnings for anyone entering the region's woods. Where fog lingers on the roots of ancient trees and the silence carries more than shadows, the final call of Olivia Marsh is still unanswered. In the heart of Pineglade Wilderness, some mysteries refuse to let go. 15 stories, 15 lives, each drawn deep into the woods by purpose, curiosity, duty, or love, only to be unraveled by the secrets the wilderness guards so jealously. Perhaps you noticed the pattern in the silence, the questions left behind, the evidence left to speak when voices can no longer be heard. According to police reports, every one of these disappearances is real. Declassified documents, affidavits, and testimony confirm that the terror you felt growing with each minute was not imagination, but a window into the dark heart of the verified. Forests cover nearly 1/3 of our world. For most, they are places of solace, somewhere to find peace, inspiration, clarity. But for a select and unlucky few, the woods will always be a boundary between the known and the unknowable, between safety and the nightmares that wait just off the trail. What happened to these hikers, scientists, rescuers, and explorers? Eyewitnesses confirm the last words, the final shouts, the record-breaking silence. The official case files state only what can be proven. They all vanished where the map runs out and fear begins. So trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't ignore the subtle change in the wind, the sudden hush of birds, or the sense that you are not alone. In a world where these stories are real, and every account is verified, being informed might just save your life. Subscribe to Verified Nightmare. Like this video to help other truth seekers find our channel, and if you have a story of your own, comment below. Every account is investigated. Every fear deserves the truth. This has been Verified Nightmare. Remember, the most dangerous monsters are often the ones who look just like us.